In this programming session, I'm going to walk through how fuzz blog works. And this is actually a time warp because I just recorded the first of these episodes and it's going to actually show up as number 2. So this one is going to be an explanation because from scratch might have been misleading. There was already code that I translated from my existing personal blog over to the new repo. So really what I did was I copied over, just moved a bunch of stuff and then fixed things. So that didn't really explain what the blog software is doing. And so I figured this is a much better first video. I also made a terrible mistake where my head is enormous, just like it is right now, for the first 40 minutes of that 2.5 hour video. So super embarrassed about that, but like I'll learn. These are some of my first videos. I've only started this week. So I'm going to shrink myself down, not forget that like ever. And what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to walk through how fuzz blog works internally, and we might fix a few like small issues that I had left over from that first run. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. We're looking at blog.fuzz.dev, and you can click into the blog, and here's that first blog post that we made. I haven't posted. I'll probably update this text when I have some videos posted, and maybe document that process too, because the idea of how do you update a blog post right now, it's not automated. So it would be helpful for me to think through what needs to happen for you to update a post. I think basically all that has to happen is you have to update the updated field in your feed, and then regenerate it and it'll be fine. But that would be something that would be good to automate. So maybe I will do that automation in a separate VOD. So maybe episode 3. Actually, let's go make a note of that right now. Automate the updating of a post. So that way, currently, it just says it's on this time. It would say updated at some other time if that's the case. And there's probably a lot of like small things to polish. Basically, I did the minimum viable thing to get a blog post or a blog sort of engine going in a SvelteKit project. So we're going to look at actually how that works under the hood right now, because it's not really from scratch. I was not about to just like rewrite all of the code that I used. It's not a ton of code. It's actually only these files right here is all we have to deal with. And then we can look at the implementation in my actual, where we actually used it. So let's actually start there. Let's start from the user's perspective. I'm sorry I'm not like super polished yet. I don't know how exactly big to make these yet. I guess zooming in twice looks about right to me. I'll try to be more precise in the future. So we will come back to the fuzz blog project in just a minute. Right now, let's see how it's actually used. So what we have here is to create a new post. You might have seen that if you watch the second video, you'll see me do this. So I say grow post. And what that's going to do is create 2 different directories and then update some existing files. So you can see here on the left, there's green directories. These were just added. We have not committed them to Git yet, and we're not going to. I'm just demonstrating. So 2 is my second blog post. You see it just incremented the integers. These are like the ID. And then here, some title. This is the title of the blog post. So if we go in here, some title to do is the slug, and that translates directly here. The idea behind how this behaves is that as an author, I want to be able to just write these as numbers. So, and furthermore, I like the idea of being able to go to my blog and say, click into it and you see the slug, but I like the idea of being able to go to like 1 as well. And you see it just shows 1. Now it could probably redirect, but right now that's fine. It's basically the exact same page as this. And the way that works is it generates, and we just generated one of these 2. You can see these are the exact same, except they point to 1 instead of 2. So that's what these generated slug pages are. So your source of truth is actually in these numbered pages. And this is good from an authoring perspective. I could imagine, prefixing these with like a 2, but then you don't have a one-to-one translation between your file system and your routes, which is how SvelteKit works. So this all kind of works really nicely with how SvelteKit works. And that was the goal with this form of blogging. Now, is this the best way to organize? I don't know. I didn't actually look at how SvelteKit itself does things, and I didn't look at any other references. This is just what felt intuitive to me and felt like a minimal sort of pattern to go with. I'd be happy to experiment with better ideas if you have them. So please let me know in the comments or Discord. So the source of truth, again, is these numbered pages. So what we have in each one of these is a simple module context script that exports post data. So this is, you can kind of think of this almost like in Markdown you have, or a lot of blogging platforms use this. It's called like front matter. It's like, it looks like kind of weird. Like it has like, I don't remember exactly, something like this. And then you have like data as foo. I really like the idea of just using TypeScript vastly more than Markdown kind of magic. You get types, you can get imports, you can just do whatever you want here. I could have sourced this data from any other module in my project and it would just work. So we're exporting data that represents this post, right? So it's just a generic export of post that satisfies this blog data. I wonder if I could put it here. I forgot, there's probably a reason why I did that instead of this. I think it's because you can get exact type checking. So if you import this post, you actually get, I think more, yeah, I don't know, actually. Oh, maybe it's because, yeah, I don't know. There was probably a reason. Maybe it's because like, yeah, that there's no comments on here. So this type you see has no comments. And that's good because if you look at blog posts, it could have comments, but it might not. And so this actually just gives you better type safety for the actual data at hand. So this is just a nice thing that TypeScript has, this satisfies keyword. So this is just better than declaring it as post data, especially if you're like importing it manually to do whatever with it. So really nice TypeScript-based affordances here. And then we can just kind of add whatever content we want to the post. So you have full control over here. I include with fuzz blog these helper components, which are super nice, but not forced, which I think is really important. The idea is that like this really tries to give you, the developer, as much control over your blog as possible. That's really one of the fundamental goals of fuzz blog. Within the domain, so the scope of fuzz blog, obviously it starts with fuzz. So fuzz is my UI library that relies on Moss, which is my CSS framework. So there's a stack of stuff underneath this, not actual total freedom. But you can opt out of all of that stuff. I just branded it and put it under the fuzz namespace because that's where it makes sense to put, for me to put it. But I think technically, even though I added as peer dependencies, which we can go look at, I don't think technically you need to use. I should probably change these to optional dependencies because if we look in here, we're not actually importing currently from fuzz at all. We import from belt, so that's a helper. Nothing here, just svelte. There's grow. That's just a type, so it's fine. Grow is a peer dependency as well, or should be a dev dependency actually, which it is. It's for all my projects. So yeah, I should probably add grow as a peer dependency. I'm going to go make a note of that here. So probably add grow as a peer dep. Okay. So that's where I'm taking notes from the last, this init. So we're actually going to do a pull request number 2, even though this is the first video. And first though, I'm going to explain, because I say the name of this thing is blog software from scratch with SvelteKit. Well, I started from the software that I had built for my own website and then just kind of moved those components from this project that we're looking at right here, where I ensured that it worked kind of the way I wanted it to. And then we created the library. And then now, if we look at the package JSON, we now import fuzz blog into this package. So that's how this is working locally. So I think I explained basically how you add posts. You just say grow post and it creates the post. That's a script. So maybe, yeah, this is definitely dependent on grow because we'll see it uses both a task and a gen file internally to fuzz blog. We'll get back to that in a sec. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and clean up here as we see like 1, 2. If I run grow post again, we'll see a third, or we should. Duplicate ID. Oh, so I have some sort of bug. I will not deal with that today. It might just be because I have some title. I think I need a better error message for that. So it says duplicate gen file ID some title. I could probably come up with a better error message. It's not the worst, but it's not great to do that. The way that would work is, I should add a number to it to make sure this does not conflict. It doesn't let you create like two placeholders. So if I run grow post again, it should work. Or maybe, no, it's not. It doesn't work because I didn't add it here. So if I do this and then 2, so this should work. Cross my fingers now. Grow post, and sure enough. So it was the conflict. So let's go ahead and add another note. We'll say automate the updating of posts. We'll say improve conflict error detection. Maybe add the ID to the beginning of the post title and slug. Okay. So the problem is we just had duplicates and we had poor errors for handling those duplicates. As you can see, we have quite a lot of things mounting. So we're going to make sure this list shrinks before we go add new features. Basically, there's a bunch of things like documentation and some fixes locally to the project that need to happen. So basically, this should be, we're almost done. I think I showed you the numbered directories. This is where you actually author your blog. So you just come in here and be like, I got a post. And you just do whatever you want in here. It's full Svelte. There's no magic. It's just Svelte and SvelteKit. So that's that. No magic that I provide. It's all, or Fuzz blog provides. It's all Svelte magic. So last file that changed, 2 more files. One is the feed. We can see this is a generated file, and you can see where it's being generated. The feed just has our posts. So this is that same data that we just saw in the page component that you get to define, and then it gets added to this feed object. So this is a data representation of a blog feed. And so that means this thing can be transformed into any downstream form that you need. Like, for example, the feed.xml. So this is an Atom file. That's the feed data in the format that Atom, similar to RSS, but this is much more heavily used for blogs. Any feed reader should be able to read the Atom feed that I'm generating here. I tried to keep this as clean as possible and to spec as possible. I might have made some mistakes. Please absolutely let me know. I think I ran it through in a validator long ago. It's been a while. You can see too, it updates like when the blog was updated. This is a signal to any sort of feed reader that, hey, like, there's new stuff here that you should go fetch. So you can see like some title to do, some title to do too. Basically, should be pretty self-explanatory for how that feed gets generated. I say what gets generated. In terms of how it gets generated, we can come over here and we actually see 3 different, actually 2, I'm sorry. So one of these, we can ignore the gitops file. So pay attention to just these 2 files, blog.gen and post.task. So when I run grow post, this is how grow works. It looks for a task file, these .task files, in your source lib directory. And so that's what we have here. What we're doing is we're exporting, and that's all it is, a one-liner, exporting that task from Fuzz blog. This allows us to have a declarative file system-based task runner that is super nice, and I like this a lot. I've been using it for years. I highly recommend using tools that are this easy to look at your file system and know what's going to happen without digging into any configuration files. There's no config for this. You can configure it if you really want to do some weird stuff, but generally speaking, you're just looking at the file system, just like with the Svelte routes. It does take a little bit of control away from you, but the cool thing is I could have actually composed this task. I could have imported it and then called it myself however I want. So I get full control despite it being super simple to just export with a single one-liner. I could have gotten much more granular, sort of like I could have wrapped it with other processes or whatever I wanted to do. And likewise, if I don't, well, never mind, I'm not going to go there. So the blog, this is like one other thing. Maybe it's not the best to have this. It's possible that I could figure out how to make this optional. But again, what gen files are in Grow is a way to specify, hey, this thing is, no, we're going to keep this. Gen files are very similar to task files. When you run grow gen or grow sync, what's happening, sync is basically just does the same thing, but a few more things in general that are helpful to like kind of get you up to date. Similar to SvelteKit sync, kind of readies your project for doing stuff. So grow gen is going to take any gen files in your project and run them. So the way that works, we'll take a look in a second at the actual details. But the idea is that these 2 declarative files hook into my normal processes. So when you run grow check, it will ensure that, say, grow gen is fresh. If it's not, it will error. And grow, if I just say grow, it will print all my tasks, and we can see I have this post task with the description, create a new blog post. So I can then run grow post -- help, and it will print out any options it might have. So actually it gives us an option for the date. So if you want to specify a date that's not right now, you can put in that option. So this is how grow at the CLI works. There's a lot more there that I won't go into, but this is the gist of how I integrated the fuzz blog into this project. This is a generated file. This is a generated, this is actually necessary. So maybe this should be extracted to a configuration file. This is the blog feed data, and it expects to find it at the root of your blog. I'm not sure exactly how this works, but we can take a look. This blog, yeah, it's probably in the post task. It's like hard coded to this. So maybe let's go add that note to our list. Hard coded, yeah, hard coded blog.ts in routes ? So something else to just kind of polish up. But the idea is that this is one of the few places we actually have to define data, because we have to define this information somewhere. Can't get it from like, I mean, it could technically be moved to package.json, but I think it's best to put in a standalone module, maybe a config file. So fuzz actually supports a fuzz.config. This is what fuzz getops uses. And so I think it's likely that fuzz.config will also have an optional blog field where you can put in whatever your blog information you have. So that's it. You have this blog file. Then from that, we export 2 files, which is, using the file system declaratively. It's not the best, but it means there's no magic, or a lot less magic. And maybe these should live in routes. I think that, yeah, and that's something did I put that down? Yes. Wait, no, I didn't. Yeah, move getops and probably and post post.task.ts. Basically, you shouldn't have to put them in your lib directory, because lib directory usually signals you're going to publish this thing. You could always publish that thing, but you don't. We're not going to want to publish that in this case. So all 3 of these files should probably move. Actually, blog.gen can move, but I'm going to keep it there where it is right now. And we will come back to it. And actually, I needed to add one more here. Move and, what is it? Feed.gen, is that right? Blog.gen, blog.gen.ts. Okay. So these are my notes to myself. Basically, the idea is that the whole point of this is to generate this feed where you have this Atom feed. And then furthermore, you should just be able to, as an author, just write your stuff in a regular old Svelte page, and you can get layouts as well. You could create a plus layout file here, right? Just like we know from, layout.svelte. So you could have just done that and whatever. So you get control. I'm sure there's some things I can improve, so please let me know if you see them. And that's it. Super simple. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. You basically have one source of truth for your total blog, and then your one source of truth per post is inside a numbered directory. All right, and that's here. So now let's go look at the actual implementation of this stuff. So I'm going to close all my modules, and we will start from the tasks that I already showed you. So first of all, when I said export star from post, this is that post.task.ts file that it's exporting from. You can see that date that we saw. That's right there. So the way this works is, I actually will have to refresh myself a little bit, but it's writing, the point is to write files, and then it runs the generation scripts. So that's what blog.gen will actually run when we invoke gen. This will run. And so until we get there, though, what are we doing? We are creating an unformatted module thing here with this should look familiar. This is actually the contents of that post in the numbered directory that was automatically generated. You can see we put in the date, and there's a bunch of path stuff and some IDs. It needs to generate the ID number, needs to find it, that kind of stuff. So that gets us to a formatted file. So I don't need to worry about how this is formatted. I format it right here with Prettier, and then I make a directory to the next blog post path, which would be like, /source/routes/blog/1. And then, there's a lot of configuration that needs to happen. Some of that's hard coded, I believe. And then we write that file out, and that's all. We're done. Then we invoke our generation. Sorry, we're not quite done. We invoke our generation and then we're done. And then it prints out what it did. So yeah. What is the generation script doing? So this is actually a lot more of what's happening. If we look at what it's returning, growGen returns files. So when you run, you can actually run grow gen -- check, and this actually for other reasons might fail. No, it doesn't fail. Okay. I was thinking it was a bug we were going to fix, but basically you can see it. It tried to generate 4 files, and none changed. So 0 changed, 4 unchanged. We generated 4 files from 2 input files from the blog.gen and package.gen. Ignore package. So we generated 3 files from blog.gen. So what are those? Those are right here. Here we have a feed.xml. That's just our XML file. We have feed.ts. That's our feed.ts that I showed you earlier right here. You see how it says generated. Remember, blog was where we had our source of truth. Feed is what's generated. And then third, we generate any of these. So it looks like it can generate multiple modules if needed. It generates the pages for both. Let's see. Yeah, it just generates the placeholder, or rather, it forwards it or a proxy. Basically, it imports the blog post that you're going to author, and then mounts it, and then that's how we get this slug page. So that's the third page. So page 1 or file 1 is the XML. File 2 is this feed, and this can be used in multiple contexts. And then file 3 is this generated proxy to your real page, right? So it imports this one, and you're good to go. It just kind of works transparently the same. You don't want to edit these directories. These adding a layout here, I guess you technically could, but you probably would always want to. Yeah, I don't know. That's no need to do that. You would want to re-export it from your base one, basically, if you really wanted a layout, and to make the numbered one still work. So yeah, that's maybe an improvement that could be made. But for now, it works just fine. I haven't needed to make a layout. In fact, I don't even know if a layout makes sense. It might. I'm not. It's up. And also, the numbered ones might, instead of mounting, we might want to redirect. So that's something that we could always change in the future. It's a little bit tricky though, because like this page is your content, and I didn't want to change that. I like the idea of being able to go to that number, see your content. It could still redirect, but then how would this mount it? It would have to mount it with like an option not to redirect. So it could do it. It just makes it a little bit more complicated and not a problem I needed to solve. So I'm kind of trying to think through all the edge cases. There are lots of them. So that's our files. We see that that's generate. We kind of walk through it all now. We see that the post task creates our new /blog/number, and then the generation script then updates our existing feed, outputs the XML file for the feed.xml. So I was saying feed.ts. That's a JSON or data TypeScript representation of our feed. And then it also generates the slug files that you don't update. They're just helpful for organization, because I like to be able to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and navigate my blog posts as I'm authoring them that way. That just felt like the better experience for sure, rather than unsorted slugs that might not even match the file system if you want to get fancy with it, would not recommend. So this all kind of fits into SvelteKit idioms really well, and I'm very happy with it. It was easier than I expected to convert this from my personal blog into a library. Basically, this is the entire scope of what we need to deal with, and then inside of Fuzz blog, we actually do the same thing. So we can actually start up our server, and I will go open up let's see here. I'm going to pull up localhost, and we can see our Fuzz blog. So I should move, let's see, I should move this over, I think. Well, actually, it's fine, right? It's fine. So here's our blog. So I actually made a blog post. So I think this is a Vite problem. Vite does weird stuff sometimes. Hard refreshing fixes it. I couldn't tell you what's going on. But hard, if you hold down here, hard empty cache and hard refresh, it often fixes whatever V's problem is. So this is working locally. And the way it works locally is basically the exact same it works in my personal blog. We have the blog directory. We have this one. We said, hello, fuzz blog. Here's our source of truth. I did use the blog post format, and that gives us this nice header right here. This is all kind of handled by the component. We can go look at that component. But basically, like, yeah, and then I have some paragraphs, and that's it. That's the whole post, right? Not much there, and we'll add a lot more. But you could add, like, say, blog comments using Mastodon or some other system. And I actually have a project, Fuzz Mastodon, that I use in my personal blog to get Mastodon comments on my blog. So we will sort of document and make that as smooth as possible. It should be already kind of just work, I believe. So, but it's a separate project from the blog. You don't have to use Fuzz Mastodon on the blog project or vice versa. So the blog post, you can see, mounts a header, then it renders you, and then it puts like an HR and then the children, the footer, sorry, rather. And all inside an article. So this is just kind of a best practice, totally yours to ignore. You don't have to wrap this in a post. This was just a convenience. And Fuzz blog, part of its point is to provide a fully featured set of Svelte components to make authoring blogs streamlined. And so that's what we're seeing here. These, like the header and footer, all of this is, you can just think of it as placeholder. Not too much to worry about yet. I'm wondering if like this header should be moved here, right? So like I kept the header out here, right here. I don't know. It's kind of inconsistent, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's put the header around here, and yeah, basically behaves the exact same because we weren't using CSS or anything to select on it. So now the footer also has a footer, and the header has its header, right? So I actually use a different convention now, but we can remove this and just call footer, right? And so, yeah, this panel is kind of weird. So let's do this. Padding, this is like new stuff that I have. I used to not have padding large. Okay, so I just kept the exact same behavior, but used a utility class instead. So this item is not actually being used. That's fine. So we're just going to do a little bit of refactoring. So we're just going to hit stash, open up a new branch, refactor, get stash. I'm not sure, that's like a bad name, but I'm pushing up that branch, and then we can pop over to GitHub and open up this pull request. Tweaks, I'm not sure what we're going to do here, but I will link to this source code in the description of the video if you want to go see it. As I do with all my VODs, I try to remember to link it specifically to the pull requests that I do. All of these VODs are just me raw programming, and I try to tie it one-to-one with a single pull request on GitHub. Sometimes, like last one actually had two, so I need to make sure to link to both of those pull requests when I post that VOD. So I'm going to post this VOD and then the next one as well at the same time. So those will be up. By the time you read this, you can go watch VOD number 2, where I do 2.5 hours, again, 40 minutes of giant head. Sorry. It is what it is. All right. I decided like I'm not going to redo this because I had already, configured my DNS, created a new project. I had everything going 40 minutes in. So I was like, screw it. If I block stuff with my head, so be it. I'm sorry. I probably will make that mistake again, but I'll get better. The point is, like, I wanted to be able to have like a preamble where I kind of just like set it up, and being a tiny person in the corner didn't make sense for me to do that. So I'm still new at this, figuring it out as I go. All right. So what we have then in our Fuzz blog is we walk through how the post task works, and we walked how through the blog generation script works. So if you say, again, grow sync or grow gen, it'll run those scripts and it will say, hey, nothing changed, so no change. We saw how the blog post, and then it composes a blog post header and a blog post footer. So that's what these are. Blog helpers will come back to, actually, no, we can just walk through this really fast. Here, these helpers collect blog post IDs, load blog post modules. These are all used in like the generation scripts in the task. So nothing to really worry about here. If you want to get the details, I don't think it's worth going into the details here. Yeah, it's not right now. And then blog, some of these, if you have ideas for how to restructure this code, I would love to hear it. Blog and blog helpers being two different modules, maybe that shouldn't be, I don't know. It looks like this is all types with a couple, like there's a context helper here. Why is this here and not blog helpers? Like not a good necessarily design. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Maybe because this uses Node and this does not. So that makes a lot of sense to me. The blog does not use Node. So that means you can import anything from here into your client. Blog helpers are Node only things, or at least some of them are. But that's what they were designed for. Like resolve blog post item is going to look at your file system, I think. Maybe this could be moved to the blog. Let's just leave a note. To do maybe move non-node stuff to blog. Maybe rename this to blog FS helpers. I don't know. Basically, like, could be a lot clearer because I'm getting confused reading it. And that's been a while. Like, this is fairly old code. And it was not meant to be reusable. I very much just copy pasted it and just went with it and hacked it till it worked. So now this feed item date, that's being used, I believe, in the header. Yep. To render the fields, the data of like when we look here, this is the field item date component. If we have it updated, you can see it will render the updated as well. Hash link, this is just a thing. Probably move to fuzz. We don't need to worry about it. Utils, a couple tiny utils format the date using date functions. So a couple tiny little utils here. And then here's the RSS part of it. And this is really when I say blog from scratch. This is like the meat of what we're talking about outside of the SvelteKit machinery that kind of assembles all your stuff and puts it on the file system and all that stuff. So this is actually the last file we need to look at in the entire app to understand it. So what we're looking at, you can see a bunch of to-dos. We will deal with that later. I'm saying this is designed to extend JSON feed 1.1. So JSON feed, I don't need to go to it. If you want to take a look at it, jsonfeed.org. I was basically using it as a inspiration for how to organize my feed data. The idea is that I want to have a representation of my feed in TypeScript, so that, or JSON really, but TypeScript, that lets me kind of do whatever I want, transform that data however I want. So I can present it or transform it to other forms of data. One of those forms that I transform it to is the feed.xml. So that feed.xml is just a projection of this feed data. And that feed data, again, this is your source of truth that you define in your blog directory. So this feed, right? See blog feed extends feed with some blog specific stuff. Is this the best design? I don't know, but that's what I'm doing. So feed basically takes the ability to have a JSON feed and extends it with things like Atom. So I probably need to add JSON feed stuff. I don't know how this should look. Maybe it should be on the root, I said. Atom, you can see I namespace. There's a very specific property that seemed like JSON feed didn't have, but Atom did. I don't remember exactly what the source of truth here was, but that's the idea, is that anything that like RSS will show up in here, right? When I support RSS. So to do support RSS. So that's just going to happen eventually. I couldn't tell you when, but if you have a desire for that, let me know. It might nudge me to do it. I'd also take, if you have high quality contributions, would love that as well. So each feed item, you can see, this represents each post. So we call them feed items rather than posts because feed item could represent a blog podcast, or sorry, a podcast, which is not a blog. They could represent a message on Mastodon, right? They're just items. And actually they're called items on JSON feed. So they're not blog posts. That's too specific to one use case of a feed. So these are supposed to be very generic. This is what you can have. You can have a summary, tags, items, etc. This is actually the same stuff that you see over here. So blog post data extends, to do extend feed item, should this extend feed item? You can see it's almost the same. Title, slug, no, it's not, it's different. So Yeah, I couldn't tell you exactly what's going on. Oh, so feed, oh, that's what it is. Okay. So items, so feed item, that's what it is. Instead of feed item, we override it with blog post item. So this is a specialization of this, and that extends blog post data. Okay. It's just a little roundabout. I couldn't tell you why. It's because blog post data is not decorated with all this other stuff, right? This stuff I didn't want to make you define. Actually, this tags, it's required now. That's why. Okay. So yeah, it took me a moment to understand this, but I still think like my design is sound in the sense that like your blog post data that you define in your module, this is actually the only required subset. You don't want to have to define ID and other things here. That's not the concern for here. That's a downstream concern when you transform data. So we can see here in feed, actually blog as well, we have those types. And so when we go to the feed generation script, which happens here, right, we say create Atom feed, and we give it the feed. So that's the same file, right, that was imported, or that includes our items that we just talked about. So let's go look at this. So this is like when I was saying the meat of the from scratch. We now know what a feed object interface is. We know what its items is. We have our own version of that for blog posts, which is specific to blog posts. But then when for the purposes of transforming to XML, it's compatible with the feed items. So you can give a blog feed to here, is what I mean. These items might be blog items, but they're also conform to the feed item interface, which is the important thing for generate Atom in this particular use case. And so what we do here is we just kind of like transform a little bit of data. We get our updated, we transform our items to where they're ordered correctly. The whole point of this was to sort them. And when we also want to, let's see, reduce. Yeah, it is saying we modify the date of them if the date modified is different than the latest. So if it was modified after the latest value that it had, then we, because you see how we're returning new dates for each of these. So these items, yeah, okay, that works. Item.date modified, yeah. So if it's modified, we use the modified version. Otherwise, we use the latest. Yeah. Detailed doesn't matter. So our XML then is right here. So this is what a final feed looks like. If we look at here, feed.xml in our static directory, this is the exact same thing, just in the template, string, and JavaScript form, where we are just putting in our data, we're making it nice and well formed, and then we output really nicely structured XML for our Atom readers. And that's it. So we just kind of walk through how it works. To add a new post, we already saw you run grow post. There's definitely a lot of kinks to work out, but this is basically just like how it works. Added a to-do. I'm now going to make a few more changes before we sign off for the time. First, we can document this meta tag. So there is one last detail that I needed to point out. In your link in your head, you want to go, let's go ahead and document this. Actually, where should we document it? Maybe we document it on the page. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, typically you want to document, I don't want to document in readmes probably. So we'll go ahead and add an H2 and say like docs, and then say aside, this is a work in progress. And then we can start with like a, I think we need like class equals width 100. We're going to put, this is like not the smoothest right now, but if you bear with me, we're going to put this code in here. So we're going to say add to enable your feed, your generated code like feed.xml, include it as a link in your layout. And then we already had the feed. Actually, we don't have the feed imported here. So yeah, I can import it. I can say actually get blog feed at this point. So feed, const feed equals get blog feed from there. That's right. Okay, and this is going to be, this is a string, but it's busted because of parsing rules. So we need to, why does that not work? Yeah, so the parsing is, oh, so actually we need to say, sorry, this might actually be fine. We need to say content equals. So this code thing, this is actually going to be from code.svelte. This is fuzz code because it's just using one implementation that we could, of what's possible. This needs to be wrapped in curlies. So we have a, yeah, there we go. This is starting to look correct. And your title, just put like title, your title here in, and then we'll say like here, this will be commented as source. Hey, that, good job. Can we just do this though? Yeah, we can just do that. Okay. So this is, I'm documenting in your source routes layout.svelte, and we're not going to finish the documentation today. We're just going to kind of get something going. And so we need to add code, fuzz code, npm I @ryan/fuzz code -d for development. I'm now going to also pop over here, look at my vite config. Do I have fuzz code in here? I don't. So there was one just really quick thing I wanted to copy over. We don't need this project anymore. I can do it from fuzz for sure. I'm just going to, I should know this, I mean, this is not hard, but basically I'm just copying over a configuration into here that removes, fuzz code uses Prism, and this removes its default CSS file. This is technically not needed, but it's a nice little optimization that I always try to make sure I include. So that gives us fuzz code that we can import. We can now use this. Yeah, actually we didn't need the feed. That was a red herring. This is not basically, oh wait, no, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah, we can show how to use get blog. That's fine. So we can put in the script here. So we actually can't put the word script in our, but we can, or the opening tag with script like that. But we can do this. Okay, thank you, Copilot. So this is actually going to be, we need to do from blog, get blog feed. So it's get blog feed. Actually, you can import your feed directly. You could. Do you want to? Let me just think really fast. So set blog feed. We should actually document this as well. Just because this can be like a full example. So it can be like that. And then we just call like set blog feed with feed. Okay, that makes sense. So we can just do this. So set blog feed. We don't need get blog feed then, obviously. We do need to import the feed. So Copilot actually was right. Good job, Copilot. Almost. So we need to actually import it from fuzz blog. Okay, same with this one. Not lib. Okay, so these look correct to me. This actually can't be simplified. There's like a, can you do like greater, or it's less than, and ampersand less than? No, because it's just a string. So I'm just trying to think like, how can I just silence this thing? No, that's going to break it. Disable for this line. Let's just disable for the module. That's what I was trying to avoid, but whatever. We can disable, instant disable. Okay, so I think that silences our error. And I'm going to restart Svelte language server. It should pick up fuzz code. It does now, it looks like. The feed is going to be using, we actually didn't need the feed for real. We just needed to document how to use it. I guess we could have, no, that's right. Okay, so let's go, we've been kind of going for a moment. Let's look at what we just did to our main page. So if I'm going to load up localhost, go to the home, and cool. So we're starting to see some stuff. I see some errors already. So I'm going to say this is width medium, I think is how it works. Yeah. And then main can be a box. Don't always need to do this, but this is fine. Why is this erroring? Prism is not defined. Okay, so this is just a bug that I've been dealing with elsewhere. This should not be needed. But I'm going to add this to deal with this later. But basically, this will fix it. Code already imports Prism. I think this is a issue with oh, I need to wait. Cannot find a declaration. But we already it should be installed through. Let me just restart our server again. I think it should pick it up because fuzz code installs it as a peer dependency. So I'm going to open up another shell so we can do stuff there. Yeah, so okay, now we have our docs. Now this did not syntax highlight correctly, and why is that? This is a work in progress. So I'm going to run over to Moss really fast and just borrow the little symbol there. Here, this is a work in progress. Docs are a work in progress. So I'll make sure I zoom in a little bit. All right, so fuzzblog, that looks good. Here we're saying it's a work in progress. To generate or to enable your generated feed XML, include it as a link in your layout. Okay, so my syntax highlighting is not working. I'm not sure why. It should be, oh, wait, no, it should be fine. Oh, I need to import, I don't remember this very much, but there's a style sheet I do need to import. So let's go to the layout of, yeah, that should have, yeah, I'll have to remember that. I don't usually have to do this. So I'm going to import it from the root here. We now import fuzz code's Prism style sheet. So we're now syntax highlighting, as you can see. So this is source routes plus layout. We want to say set blog feed. And now we'll document that can be, whoops, I'm in the wrong directory. Let's close that. Probably not coming back to fuzz. We want to document, and we'll say get blog feed. And we'll say const feed equals get blog feed can call from any component or use from it. Yeah, use from any component. Okay. Actually, let's put that on a separate line. To get the feed from any instead of descendant. Okay. I think we go with the E in descendant as the convention that I've been using. Both work. I Googled it and there's no consensus. So you can say set blog feed, get blog feed. So we set the blog feed, and you have this title, right? And then you have this link rel. And let's format this a little bit nicer. Let's go ahead and just indent it like this. And a little bit easier to read, especially on mobile. So this says, hey, here's our XML file and this is how you like access the actual file. So you don't have to hard code it. It can just be generated automatically from wherever you move it in the future. It will remain linked. So we're not hard coding any static URLs to your, but this is basically just pointing to /blog/feed.xml. That's all it's doing. And you can see this is the same link as right here. It actually even has that same type. All right. So to enable your generated, yeah. Okay. We will go ahead and push that up. That satisfies me for now. I mean, obviously, this does not explain anything except for like, a couple details. We definitely will want to return to this in another time. But for now, we're looking good and we can move on. So we documented the meta tag. We got one off the list. Good job. All right. So for the rest of this video, I think I'm just going to do one bug fix. I said maybe detect directories that have old generated names. Yeah. None of this stuff. I'll add the YouTube VOD after this, of course. Hard-coded, this is later concerns. I just need to get this out the door. And I got a lot of other things I need to work on as well. So we are initializing the blank blog post pages with blog post. That is like a quality of life thing. So we'll deal with that later. So what we will do though is this fix self imports problem. So if we go over to our, if we look at blog post generation and post generation, what we'll see is this and also our helpers. We might be referencing, whoops, how does that keep happening? Yeah, right here and right here, we can see when we generate files, they are hard-coded to fuzzblog, which sounds fine, except when you're using it within fuzzblog, which I want it to be its own test case, it will slightly complicate the code, but we can totally fix this to be a, so we want package name, package JSON dot name. No. Wait. So hold on. We'll do this import path. Okay. Const import path. Actually, what's the better name for this? It's the fuzz blog import path. Okay. So this is going to be equal to, if we are in, so if the package JSON, I think, do I have a package JSON in here? What do I have in here? Config. No. So I need to load it. That's fine. Did I already load it? No. So package JSON equals load package JSON. This is just a really simple helper that's provided by Grow. And Grow's expected to be a dev dependency. Package JSON dot write this const package JSON, and then we say package JSON dot name equals, if it's this fuzz blog, hey, did it do it? So no, almost. This is what we want. There. Okay. So if basically I'm looking at, hey, if we're this, if our name is literally fuzz, my name fuzz blog right here, then we need to import, and Copilot did it backwards. Good try, Copilot. You almost got there. Glad I checked that. That would be confusing. Our lib is the local import path for this stuff. And so this exact same code can be copied over to the post task as well. Actually, let's put this at the top. That's like a nice kind of top level thing. This to-do can stay up there. The this load function gets imported, rearrange our paths. And so now we now have this. Wait, I think I screwed it up. Did I? If the name is this, yeah, it's lib. Okay, I got it right. Copilot got it wrong. Okay. Copilot made me second guess myself. All right. So I think we're about done. This was the bug I wanted to fix. You know, I could run grow sync. I could run, actually, what I'll do is it generated the file. You see this? And it changed the import. So that's what we were looking for. We're working now. So it now imports from lib locally to this project. Otherwise, it would import from itself, or from the full qualified path to fuzz blog. So I think we just did it. What we can do is make sure our CI passes. And then we already have tweaks open here. So what we did was we fixed, some minor issues. We technically made a breaking change because the blog post header, that's not really breaking, but we moved the header around a little bit. We fixed a bug. And we added some docs. So let's just quickly add that to here. So fix bug with imports local to this package doesn't affect users. We added some basic docs, including syntax highlighting, and we, what else? There was one more thing. I'm not going to worry about that refactor. Yeah, I guess that's it. I was thinking about Prism. So yeah, okay, cool. Well, would tweak the layout. We don't even need to say it. So, okay. 2 basic things, add basic docs and add basic docs. Okay. So this is fuzzblog. This is it's passing CI. What it is a reusable library that if you are a SvelteKit developer, you can use this in your own projects. I'm going to go ahead and pull that down, delete my old branch, hit grow deploy. Whoops. And while this is deploying, I'm going to give a short recap because we'll be able to see in just a moment it on the web. So fuzzblog, if you are a SvelteKit developer who wants to blog, there aren't too many dependencies on my thing in this thing. I'm not sure how that will grow, but you can always kind of opt out of a lot of this machinery. I think really the only thing that's really required is grow and belt, but very minor sort of, these are just dev dependencies to like import a couple of helpers, right? And then grow has the machinery for the code generation. If you want an example before the docs are actually fully ready, my blog, ryanatkn.com, is the repo name under my normal namespace. And so that will give you an example of how to use all of this sort of code. So basically, let's go pop over to the blog. We now see we have some documentation. It works both small and large, right? Does it work? Does it work on mobile? It does. It correctly shrinks down. Okay. There's padding that's needed, like whatever. It's not perfect. And actually, it's fine. We'll add some padding later. Because I already merged it. So usually I try to test on smaller widths, but yeah, you can see it goes flush to the edge. It's something we'll fix in the future. I will add that note to our follow-ups. So add padding to layout, main layout. Okay, so that's the whole deal. Fuzzblog now can make blogs. I'm using it on my personal website, and you can use it on yours. I'll be using it in the future. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.